Hi. In this video, I'm going to discuss the corporate takeover of America. I'm going to cover three areas. That is that corporations have influenced. That would be the sectors, as I call them, such as health, defense, and farm, finance, and EPA regulations. Then I will move on to how corporations have managed to manipulate public opinion through propaganda. And I will also discuss corporate takeover of media and how all the media stations basically only care about access and not pissing off their corporate bosses or their customers, which are basically people that give them money so they can stay on air. Now, we're going to start off with sectors. Now, healthcare industry in this country is privatized. It's a very highly ineffective system. It's the most expensive system in the world. We pay more for drugs and healthcare services than I think that are greatly overpriced. They have a monopoly. In fact, it's 1/6 of the entire economy is healthcare. That means like all the money that's made and spent, 1/6 of that is healthcare, and that's our entire. We're talking fucking trillions of dollars. Now, the Affordable Health Care Act actually did do good things. It mitigated the inflation of healthcare costs. It has also allowed people to insure their children until age 27. It made sure that people who were working 35 hours or more a week would be guaranteed affordable healthcare. And if you are a lower income individual, you also have access to subsidized healthcare, which is good. It's just basically like an expansion. It's an expansion of the Medicaid program, which is basically healthcare, government healthcare for poor individuals. And not to mention, just off topic here, but the Affordable Health Care Act also fixes the mistake that the expensive drug plan Part D that Bush implemented, which added $500 billion to our deficit over since 10 years of its implementation. And then Obamacare does actually pays for that, and the healthcare industry always likes to say things like socialized medicine. They like to talk about how universal healthcare is the downfall of America and our freedoms. But quite frankly, this is all bullshit. All the countries that have universal healthcare or a public option, these people are happier, they're healthier, they're very happy with their healthcare plan. And I just there's a lot of lies out there. For instance, that when Obama was trying to implement this law in 2010, when he did implement it in 2010, but it took him 2 years just to get it through. And a lot of the lies that they say, like the number one lie on Fox News was the death panels, which is just completely ridiculous. But there's also other ones, such as how it was the government takeover of healthcare. It's not the government takeover of healthcare. In fact, Obamacare actually keeps the insurance companies in the basically into the front seat of the car, where they can still get to make their profit. And it's damn it. Oh man. Oh well, I'll just keep going. I'll do it again. And conservatives like to say that the big thing about conservatives is to say it was like going to be the absolute destruction of America as we know it. And hate to burst their bubble, but here we are in 2014, 4 years after its implementation, and America is still here. Okay, moving on. The defense sector, basically, it's a basically defense contractor. So it's the market where basically the government pays corporations such as Lockheed Martin and Boeing to offer them services such as technology to improve our national security. Now, that's not necessarily a bad can be a bad thing. There is technology that we need. We do need to be safe. I mean, we're the richest nation in the world, and unfortunately, our foreign policy is flawed, and there's a lot of resentment towards this country. Now, the problem with the defense contract, and this is what Eisenhower warned us about, which is he warned us against the military, and he's a Republican, by the way. He warned us about the military-industrial complex, and he was right, because today we have like spend. I mean, if you don't know this already, we spend 600, like maybe even $1 trillion a year in military spending. That just give you an idea how what an asterisk or a fucking metric fuck ton of money this is. China spends $127 billion a year on defense. We spend 6 times more than China, and they're the second highest military spender in the world. If you took all the nation's military budgets and added them all together, America represents 43% of that money. And the reason why, and then the services we buy are sometimes ineffective, wasteful. We have tanks sitting in the fucking deserts of Nevada, 3,000 tanks, and we don't even fucking need them. The military doesn't want them. We end up fucking like basically fucking shipping them out to like Egypt and other countries we sell weapons to, which in some cases they end up using those weapons against us. And the reason why is because the defense industry has figured out how to, I'm going to keep bringing this topic up a lot, the donors, they're called lobbyists, and they basically buy elections, because 90%, the person with the most money wins 90% of the time. That's just how it works in America. I'll give you an example. Let us talk about Buck McClellan. Buck McClellan, or Bucky McClellan, or Howard McClellan, he's the head of the Arms and Service Committee in the House. He's the chairman. Basically means he runs the whole spiel. He gets to bring up votes. It gets out of committee. But, it has to get out of committee before it goes to the House to be taken to the House for a vote. He receives more money from the defense industry than any other national politician in America. In fact, he received more money in 2012 than Mitt Romney or President Barack Obama. He is a man with no principles. The only constituent he has is the defense industry. He'll just say anything to defend the contracts that he basically forks out. See, that's how it works. They give him money to win his elections, and then he turns around and gives them $3 billion contracts. I mean, think about that. They give him a couple of $1 million, and then he turns around and they get like a no bid $3 billion contract. Like, I believe that's a number. I'm not completely sure that's from Lockheed Martin's contract that they have gotten from the government. That's how corporate takeover of our Defense Department has happened. And then now we got in recent, this has been going on for more than just recently, but the military gets so much, they have so much crap they don't need, they end up giving it to local governments and police departments, like tanks, basically, militarized stuff that's not exactly a good way to protect and serve your community. Moving on. We got oh, farm subsidies. Farm subsidies. We don't need them. We're basically subsidizing the sugar that makes our asses fatter. We have we give out farm subsidies every year. Basically, it was implemented, I believe, under FDR, and at the time it was kind of, I don't know, I'm not really sure if it was supposed to make it more stable, but now it's become basically, now it's just a welfare check to rich farmers. And the problem with this, not just for, it's also an international issue, because there's farmers in Africa, like in countries like Nigeria, that have to leave their farms and move to cities like the city in Lagos that's in Nigeria, because they just simply cannot compete with American farm or American corn. American corn is so cheap, like, and the reason why it's cheap is it's artificially cheap. So they can't compete with that. There's no way they can compete with that. They can sell it for like basically no profit and still make, and still it can't beat their prices. And that's the problem with farm subsidies. And it's but they have lobbyists too. And in particular, I want to talk about Debbie Stabenow, which is a senator, and she runs the, ironically, she's chairman of the farm, basically the farm committee, so I call it. And she, but she also receives a lot of money from lobbyists who represent the farm industry. And guess what? They tried to pass, the Senate passed a bill, well, they passed a bill that would put caps on this sort of, subsidy. And she voted no. Because she was more because she wanted to make sure that millionaires who received these tax subsidies would continue to get them. And this so-called Democrat doesn't really represent you. She represents the farm industry. Moving on, the EPA. Now the EPA is deregulated all the time. Now the reason I talk about that sector in particular, it's actually a government agency, but it's because the sector, the oil industry, does not like the EPA, and because it cuts into their profits. Now, the Koch brothers probably come to mind. They have spent countless sums of money to manipulate, or basically curtail EPA regulations. To give you a good sense of how much power the EPA has, which is none, look at the BP oil spill. That's actually the issue that got me to start following politics more closely. Now, they could have stopped it because the static kill charge, or this, which is a $500,000 thing that people put on top of the well, would have probably stopped it from leaking. But Dick Cheney got rid of that, so they didn't have to get it. And well, now you know what happens to that story. Yeah, we got oil spilling. BP just basically ran the show. We had a media blackout. We don't even know the implications of that disaster. We have no idea what the effects on our environment will be, because nothing like that's ever happened before. In fact, they call it they were calling it, you know what they should have called it on the news for what it is. It's basically the worst man-made natural disaster in the history of the world. It is. It was. We spilled so much oil. We didn't really clean it up. We basically fucking put some, dispersant in the Gulf, and we fucking mixed it up, and it just sank to the bottom. Mixed, made some more dead spots the fish can, so basically suffocate. So next time somebody tells you EPA has power, and the oil industry's overregulated, they're full of shit. Okay, moving on to the second part of the story, part of this corporate takeover of America, public opinion. Now, public opinion, corporations have manipulated public opinion through propaganda in such issues as tax policy, regulation. Wedge issues is another one they like to use, and I call this the divide and conquer strategy. This is where they pick an issue to appeal to one-issue voters, and those issues, well, used to be gay rights, and then climate change. I'm gonna bring that up in the wedge issue because some people, well, actually that's not a wedge issue, and abortion. No. Let's talk about tax policy. Now, there's this false debate on TV that tax policy, it's a debate on whether lower taxes stimulate economic growth or increased taxes are good, or whatever the fuck it is they say. They're full of shit. There's been several studies done that there's a mountain of evidence to support that tax policy has little to absolutely no effect on the economy. Take for example, FDR. His highest tax bracket when he was in president was 90%. That's not to say that all their money gets taxed 90%. This just means all money they make after a certain point, every dollar at that certain point gets taxed at 90%, because that's how taxes work. Bill Clinton, and unemployment under him was at one time, believe it or not, like 1%, like 1 point something. That's mainly because a lot to do with World War II efforts. But you know, and when we end wars like that, we have what we call post-war recessions. But it's a minor compared to the Depression. He basically took us from 25%, FDR took us from 25% unemployment to 1% unemployment while raising taxes and implementing a progressive tax rates system and basically making more government services for people. Now, so don't believe that argument. Let's talk about Reaganomics, otherwise known as supply side economics, also known as the trickle-down theory. George Bush coined the term voodoo economics. It does not work. Okay, the only thing that's trickling down is might be gold, but I guarantee you it's not gold in color, but it's not money. No, it actually has the opposite effect. It trickle up. I call it trickle up economics because it's basically what it is. It's like through deregulation and lower flat tax rates, the rich have figured out how to basically suck up every fucking last bit of money they can from basically 99% of the population, whether it's through inflated food costs or inflated oil prices, inflated healthcare costs, privatization of goods and services. I feel that should be should have a public, more public, aspect to it, meaning that they should be government. The government should have more programs for those services. And we tried trickle down 2 times, I believe, because it was the whole Reagan era thing was that, oh, if we deregulate and cut taxes, well then the economy will just explode, and that's simply not true. Look, look, he did it, and he ended up having to raise taxes again, because unemployment, people were working harder, making less. I mean, it does not work. And not to mention, it blows up the deficit. Every time they've done it, it just blows up the deficit. Like, Reagan blew up the deficit, and then, oh man, and then everybody knows the most intelligent president we ever had in history of America, George W. Bush, blew it up quite a bit, actually. And that's the proof. Because George Bush basically, when he won election in 2000, and 9/11 happened. He allowed him to get, basically a majority of support of people, and then they just. And then I was, back then I was a Republican, and I was like, America, boy, wasn't I a fool? Well, he basically cut taxes. He deregulated. He wasn't the only. To be fair, he wasn't the only president to deregulate. Basically, when we deregulated the stock market, we've been picking away at it for several times, which basically led to the 2008 collapse, which I'll talk about in more detail later. And well, he implemented this tax. He took the Clinton rates, the top rates, from 39.8% to 35%, and lo and behold, he took a surplus of $200 billion left by the Clinton administration, and basically left Obama with a $1.2 trillion budget deficit. And we had an economic collapse, and the tax cuts made it worse. The tax cuts had nothing to do with the economic collapse. The economic collapse happened because of deregulation. It's just the tax cuts exacerbated made the problem worse, because the government it makes the government spending weaker, meaning that they don't have as much money as they should. Now, moving on, regulation. We're going to talk about regulation. Now, the reason now we can talk about the 2008 collapse. But before we do, I'm going to bring up the Great Depression. The Great Depression happened, and FDR basically regulated that the financial sector so he can, keep that from happening again. And they say regulation, well, the big lie is that they say that regulation won't stop the next economic collapse. That's complete nonsense. That's not true. FDR implemented that, and we basically kept us from having a recession for, I want to say, rough estimate, 50 years after its implementation. I mean, that's pretty successful. When before then, they used to have recessions all the time. So regulation did actually help that. Now, we've been picking away at things such as Glass-Steagall and all those regulations that were set in place by FDR to keep us from, having another financial collapse. But I believe, I know Bill Clinton did it, Bush did it, and what happened was in 2008, okay, now basically banks, financial centers were allowed to now loan money out to people that did not have the financial capabilities of paying the loan. Basically, they were giving out loans to people to buy houses, and this artificial, basically what happened, the appraisal of these houses were artificial, but but still, it was a bubble. It kept going, house prices kept going up, and I remember, a house being worth $500,000 in Camarillo. It's just like a one-bedroom, or just a 3-bedroom family house with 2 bathrooms, $500,000. Well, now they're worth $250,000. So, yeah. Well, these houses were basically, and then people were taking out second mortgages on these houses because your house was like bank. You can now that you have this house and you're already paying off the loan you used to buy this house. Now you can take the another loan out from the house, second mortgage, and then basically borrow even more money. And this is where it gets kind of tricky, and it's hard for me to explain this because I don't think I fully understand the, this is very kind of complex. Now, when the financial crash happened, basically these toxic mortgages, or we call them toxic mortgages, were basically bundled up in the stock exchange. And what they do is they take those assets and they hedge bets And in our crazy fucking world, we allow people to basically bet, you know, for 40 times what they have. That means, like, if they want to bet $40, they only have $1 of collateral, which is insane, but they do it anyways. And they use these things called naked derivatives. Now, naked derivatives are kind of hard to explain because it's basically probability math. Like, they kind of know that they're most likely going to get this much money back. But the problem with derivatives is the naked derivatives is that people couldn't see how it worked, and basically they would connect a buyer to a seller, and they would make an exchange, and then the person in the middle would, you know, basically skim off the top. And this is actually what crashed our economy. This is what made all those banks go under. This is what put I believe it was Lehman Brothers out of business. And it fucked us bad. Like, money just vanished. Like, because this is the problem with this is how globalized we are now. That when that collapse happened, people needed to pay their workers, you know, and they rely on banks to give them the money to pay their workers. Well, when the banks don't have that money because they lost it all, people can't get paid, and then people lose jobs. So our government, in its infinite wisdom, decided to, now we had to do something, obviously, because, you know, if we didn't do something, we would have gone into a global depression, and we've never had one of those before. But they made a 3-page bill known as TARP, and it basically gave $600 billion to the banks that crashed the economy. Which is funny, because they did illegal things, and damn, this isn't working out like I thought it would. And they basically, what's this have to do with public opinion? Well, it has a lot to do with public opinion, because public opinion is affected by this. The lie is that regulation is bad, and then it was like a false argument. I call them false arguments. Basically, regulation versus deregulation. No, it's that's fucking stupid. Regulation keeps our economy stable and fair and free, not the other way around. And what's my proof that regulations work? Because they prevented the financial collapse from happening. But when they finally got rid of those regulations, the financial collapse happened in 2008. That's another big lie. Now, moving on. I'm going to talk about gay rights, the wedge issues, and gay rights and abortion. Now, let's just call it for what it is. I call them religiously, I call it religious ideology. It's not, or ideology would be better. It's basically when they say that the Bible says that gay people are evil and abortion is evil, even though the Bible doesn't say either of those things. Now, is gay a choice? No. Being gay is not a choice. You can ask any psychologist, doctor, and they tell you the same thing. It's not a choice. People are born that way. Being gay, having a lesbian loving a woman, is just as natural to them as, like, say, me loving a woman, because they feel the same way about their same sex that I feel about the opposite sex. That's just the way it is. It's natural to them. And if they went to the opposite sex, they would feel unnatural, just like I would feel unnatural, you know, trying to, like, hit on a man, which, you know. Now we're going to talk about abortion. Abortion is a complicated issue, because it's not like you can simply say it's either bad or good. Now, the thing about abortion is that we're really not sure when the baby's alive. I mean, I think there's a dispute between when life actually begins, and it's not like we like get a woman who's 9 months pregnant and just suck that out. You know, we have laws. You know, you have to do it at a certain time. You have to be in a certain term. Now, as far as now, the thing about abortion is that there's another aspect to it, and I'm also going to talk about contraception. We're living in a sick, dying, overpopulated world. We use more resources, natural resources, than our planet can reproduce. Eventually we're going to not work, and top that with climate change. I mean, soon we're going to live in a world with more people, less food, less clean drinking water. You think we fight a lot of wars now? Just imagine what kind of world it would be like if it was like that. And this is why contraception should be brought up, because every woman should have access to free contraception. This includes pills, this includes condoms. We should teach sex education in every single school. There should be, kids should know, and kids should be encouraged to talk about masturbation. I know, call me the bad guy, but it's a coping skill, and I'd rather have the kids, you know, be habitual masturbators than see the teen pregnancy rate shoot up. Abstinence does not work. In fact, states where they use abstinence only. I'll take, for example, Mississippi has the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country, and they use abstinence. There's a direct correlation between that. Ignorance kind of makes you pregnant. Well, let me rephrase that. Ignorant. When you're ignorant, you're more likely to have unwanted pregnancies. Now, there's other reasons that abortion should be allowed. It's because, you know, women get raped, and or the fetus has a severe birth defect where if it was to live, it would be inhumane. This is the thing. It would be horrible. It'd be more humane to just, you know, to abort it. Making a woman have a child because she was raped because of God, or that's what God wants. I can't think of anything more grotesque and immoral than that. No. And that's and you know, religion, that's how they get people to vote Republican. I mean, these are issues that people are like, oh my God, God says it's true. I mean, the religious right, I mean, have those voters in their back pocket. They don't even read anything. They don't read papers. They don't know anything about our government. They don't know what our government does. They don't know what our government spends money on. They have no idea how the House works, or the Senate, or what bills were passed this year. They have no idea about what goes on overseas. They know nothing of Palestine, or Israel, or the Iraq War, or Afghanistan. They know nothing about what's going on in Syria, and any of those things. They just don't know, because all they care about is their religion, which makes them closed-minded, and that's how Republicans get them to vote for them. Because they say we stand with God, and God says we hate faggots, and God says that killing your baby's wrong, even though we're not really sure it's a human. And that's the wedge issue that they use. Those are the wedge issues they use to get those one-issue voters to vote for them. Now, we're going to move on to climate change. And that's, again, false debates. Global climate change and is a fraud. This one drives me nuts because we have mountains of scientific evidence that support that in fact our Earth is warming up, and that climate's changing. It's actually climate is more complicated than just getting cold hot. And then that we're contributing to it because gasoline. It's it's like a bunch of carbon with a bunch of hydrogen sticking out of it, and then we burn that, and then it bonds with oxygen, creating CO2, and CO2 is a greenhouse gas. That means when light hits, goes into our atmosphere, the CO2 is going to retain more of that light, which is heat energy. Well, that gets transferred to heat energy, and it makes our planet warmer. Now, and I'll go into more detail about this. We know what our climate was 4 million years ago, and just give you a sense of how bad our CO2 emissions have gotten. They're saying that we're looking just as bad as we did 4 million years ago. And the reason why we know what our atmosphere was like 4 million years ago is because we cut tubes out of Antarctica, and we pull them out, and then we melt them in an airtight bag, and the bubbles inside are basically the air bubbles that were trapped there 4 million years ago. So that's what the atmosphere was like 4 million years ago. We can see the oxygen level, the carbon level, all the other stuff. And we know how old these ice tubes are because we have several ways of testing. We know how much ice layers up, we know how long that takes. What are the effects of climate change? We don't know all the effects, but we can make some predictions. I can tell you that most of the pessimistic predictions always end up being not as severe as the reality. Now, what will happen is that, of course, polar ice caps, which are melting, they're going to melt, and eventually, over the next 100 years, they will all melt. And our oceans, that's like 200 feet of ocean water. I don't know if it will happen that soon, but just if some of it just melted, just imagine what 10 feet would do to or 20 feet or 10 feet would do to New York City or places in Louisiana or Florida, or majority of the countries in the world, or a majority of the cities in the world are by oceans. Another thing that will happen is we will start losing agricultural land, which means there'll be less farms. A high percentage of animals will also be gone. And then because we get a lot of our drinking water frozen from ice, since there's going to be less ice, there's going to be less clean drinking water. There's going to be more people. And that's what's going to happen with global warming. This is actually the most important issue that faces mankind, because this can kill us. And we're doing nothing about it at all. Not really. Nothing. And in fact, we can't even reverse the effects. All we can do is mitigate the damage because we passed the tipping point. Now, we have covered that. And those people who say global warming is a fraud, like Glenn Beck, fucking moron that he is. He's just a con artist, basically. I really don't think he believes that. He might be an idiot, he might be paranoid, but he is a con artist. Let's just call him what he is. He basically tricks his rubes and just saying, "Oh, look at that! It's snowing and it's almost spring." Fucking idiot! You sound like an idiot coming back when you say that shit. Now, and that's basically. And corporations have a lot to do with all these. I'm getting a little off topic here, but they have a lot to do with manipulating the public opinion this way. Just to recap, tax policy, Grover Northwest, mixed tax plebs, things like that. Those things are those kind of efforts, and basically commercials, and they're all created by corporations to basically trick people. Same thing can be said about regulation. They also lie about regulation. They say it kills jobs. EPA did a congressional hearing on this, and they said, in fact, the EPA regulations actually created jobs rather than eliminate them. Now, and the same thing with edge issues. They, you know, it's great to, I mean, that's easy. You fund that, and, you know, the person, you don't even have to convince the person, because the person has no idea what's going on, because all they care about is their Bible. Climate change, oh my god, there's so much misinformation about climate change. In fact, like, oil industries will even hire scientists to dispute. You know, the scientists, like, they say 97% of scientists agree that climate change is happening. You know where the 3% are? They're scientists that are bought by the oil industry. No. And that's basically how the corporations have basically manipulated public opinion. Now we're going to move on to the media. So that's the final thing I'm going to be talking about. There are, I'm going to talk about 3 particular ones. There's Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. Now, they're owned by corporations, okay? And they have, basically, they get their money from sponsors who run ads on their TV, who for some reason seem to not get their reputation besmirched by any of the anchors that work at that news industry. Now there's things I want to describe what media, because our media is pathetic in America. Like on TV, it's pathetic. It's untransparent. It's not even. It's like one of, like, I think it's 37th in transparency. It's like the best. It's just shit. It's shit. Now we got Fox News. Now Fox News is a propaganda machine that basically a mouthpiece for the Republican Party. It was conceived by Roger Ailes, who studied propaganda in World War II propaganda done by Joseph Goebbels, and he was also used this information to help Nixon, worked with the Nixon administration, and he's figured out how to create a news station where, you know, where it's presented as a fair and balanced, straight-cut news channel, but what it really is just Republican propaganda. It is propaganda. They don't even care anymore. Like, they don't care about facts. They don't care about fact-checking. They don't care about correcting on-air mistakes. They make mistakes every day. They lie every day. They don't even misinform anymore. They're just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna make shit up. Like, they don't care. Now, CNN is what I like to call, basically, CNN's the pussy of the news industry. It's like Fox News is like that angry drunk guy, drunk uncle, and like CNN is just that pussy who always gets picked on. Now, I say that because they only believe in sensationalism. That's how they run. Oh, and they also believe in the false equivalency. Oh, CNN loves false equivalency. Now, you know, the thing about CNN is they get the most ratings when sensationalist story breaks. That's why they cover it nonstop, 24/7. For instance, remember the Malaysia flight that basically vanished. They covered that nonstop. I mean, just, there's so many things happening in the world, like, they could have talked about, you know, and that's, you know. And another thing that I don't like about CNN is that every time Fox News does something or says something, for instance, like Sherry Sherrod and the James, basically the tapes released, and also not to mention the Acorn thing, or, well, I don't remember the particulars on that, but I do remember in the Sherry Sherrod story, basically Fox News comes out and we have a story, we didn't check the credibility of the source, but we have a story, and then CNN's like, oh my god, we gotta cover it, and they don't even check. They're like, oh, Fox does it, we have to do it, because then Fox is gonna call us bias, liberal bias, which, by the way, there is no such thing as liberal bias. Come on. More conservative bias than portraying in the media today. And Shelley Sherrod got fired because of that. And the story was that tape that they found of her, it was completely taken out of context. She didn't even say those things. She didn't even mean those things. It was completely taken out of context, and it was cut because it was James O'Keefe likes to cut tapes in a way that make the person seem like they're saying something they're not. That's what he does. He's not a journalist. He's a con artist. No. Moving on. MSNBC. Now, if I had to, I'll be fair here. Like, they are the most reliable cable. They're not the most reliable media outlet, and they're not transparent. But they are. If you had to pick between the three, I would say that's the most reliable one. They're the most factual. They actually, you know, most of the time have their facts straight. I mean, I wouldn't recommend Morning Joe. Because that's basically Beltway mentality 101 right there. That show is nothing but fucking establishment talking points. I watched that just to see how, the intellectuals and conservative. I want to see what their new strategy is, you know, because they're running out of shit to pull out of their ass. Now, the thing that I don't like about there's something I want to discuss about MSNBC in particular, because and I actually might release a video on this. There was I was watching an online MSNBC online, and I noticed that there was an ad coming up for against Pat Quinn, and it was for Bruce Rauner, who's currently running for the Republican running for the governor of Illinois, and I was like thinking, I wonder if I hope this doesn't affect how they do the news. Now, I can't say this with certainty because I can't ask them personally, and I can't be like, did you, but I did find a clip with Pat Quinn in it. And in that clip, Chuck Todd asked him the most difficult questions that basically, in the whole interview, it made Pat Quinn look like he was, that he was basically contradictory, he was weak, and it just seems kind of ironic that Chuck Todd would do that while taking money from the Bruce Rauner campaign. I mean, I can't say with that 100% certainty, but I mean, it fits. The thing that drives me nuts about MSNBC is the Obama sympathizers and the Democratic apologists. I fucking can't stand that shit. They're basically getting people who believe what I believe, the same positions I believe, to support candidates that have no intention of basically standing up for their values. This is why the Democratic Party. Let's just face it, the Democratic Party is just like, it's not as bad as the Republican Party, but it's a corporate. It's been corporatized. We don't have a democracy anymore. Now the thing about MSNBC. Let's talk about one host in particular, Al Sharpton. Now, Al Sharpton has said it is known that he will not criticize Obama for anything, regardless of the black unemployment rate. So if you're an African American who thinks that Al Sharpton is your knight in shining armor, prepare to get disappointed. If you did have to pick somebody to stick up for the African American community, may I suggest Dr. Cornel West. Now, so basically MSNBC. Now, I used to really like MSNBC. I still watch it sometimes. They do have they actually have really good shows there. Rachel Maddow is an excellent show. And The Cycle is also really good shows. So the problem with MSNBC is now is I'm sure that it's censored. It's censored. They cannot say what they want, or what the truth is. It's in some way, shape, or form censored in some ways. And you know, it used to be better. The thing about MSNBC is I started watching it because of Keith Olbermann, and then, I mean, he did segments where in 2008 he did that segment where he basically said, Barack Obama, you should just build a statue of George Bush so you can salute him. I mean, you won't hear shit like that on that program or on that TV station anymore. And then he left. And what really did it for me on MSNBC was Dylan Ratigan and Cenk Uygur left. When that happened, I was like, okay, yeah, they're censored. That's when I was like, especially when Cenk Uygur left, because he said that he would leave if he was censored in any way, shape, or form, and he did. And you know. So that's when I knew for sure that, like, I'm pretty sure now that they are censored. Now, that's basically, and the thing about the media, there's unwritten rules in media here, and I'll just give you some right on top of my head. You can't say anything bad about Israel. You have to have a fair debate between unfair sides, false equivalency, and you can't make politicians feel uncomfortable, because if you do that, they will go to another news interview for another station, and they will go to your station if you ask them, you know, the questions that journalists must ask politicians. And that's basically, I mean, the corporations have done a masterful job of taking over our country. I mean, they manipulated, they figured this out a long time ago. You manipulate public opinion, you really don't have to, you know, I mean, basically, that's like the smartest thing they ever did, because now they can just sit back in the background and, you know, reap all the benefits while people, you know, basically look over there. It's a cot. They pull the wool over your eyes. You see false enemies. You see, you know, strawmen, and they figured that out. That's the easiest way to manipulate, to take over our democracy. Let me end by talking about this, about what our government actually is. We have a Democratic president who's gotten elected twice. His name's Barack Obama, and he campaigned on change, and the only changing he did was to change his constituents from the American people to the financial sector. Now, and then his campaign slogan in 2012 was moving forward. Well, I know one person who's going to move forward, and they're going to be laughing all the way to the bank, and that's Wall Street. And that's what Obama did. And I, mark my words, I guarantee you, if he gets a chance to do a deal with the Republicans on the budget, I fucking swear to God that it's going to be a flat tax. It's gonna cut Social Security, it's gonna cut Medicare, and it's gonna cut Medicaid. I fucking promise you. Now now we have what we call the Congress. And the Congress is basically a corner where a bunch of prostitutes hang out on the floor, and they got mini pimps. You know, they got pimps from the healthcare industry, they got pimps from the oil industry. Pretty much every single corporation that's in America, like you can possibly think of, is bought some politicians. That's why we can't get anything done, because, like, you know, that's why they pick such small parts of the budget, because they can't write anything. Like, it's like, oh, I can't do that because of oil. Well, I can't do that because of the financial industry. Well, after we, and then they basically get together and they're like, okay, now that we have pleased our masters, now we can work on, the American people. Well, yeah, I guess. And then that's basically what's happened. And it's both parties. It's not just Republican versus Democrat. This is a false choice. You're not voting for a Democrat or Republican. There is differences, and it is actually better for the country to have Democrats in power than it is Republicans. But they're both corporate parties, and it doesn't matter who you vote for. You're voting for a corporation, really. It's a false choice. And the only people who get elected are the people that the corporations pick. You know, nobody else gets elected. Most of the time, it's just like this guy's a puppet, and it's strings being pulled by the corporations. And that's how our democracy works. It's actually a plutocracy. It is a plutocracy. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough how fucking corrupt our system is right now. The more I read about it, it's maddening. It's maddening. Every fucking every inch of our government is corrupted in some way, shape, or form by corporate money. Which is why, you know, wolf/pac.com get money out of politics, because you're not going to get it through, you know, constitutional amendment from the Congress. You're actually going to have to call for a constitutional convention by getting 34 states to call for a constitutional convention to basically make amend the Constitution to where corporations are not people, and that we need fair, publicly funded elections, and we need limits. We need limits on ads and all that shit. Well, that's basically my explanation. There's a lot of mistakes, but oh well. Corporate takeover of America. Alright, hope you enjoyed it.